what a storm!
Witness firsthand the devastation and destruction they leave behind. Plus, step inside the leading edge of technology and learn how to keep your family safe. Tornado Alert, what you need to know.
Join News 8's Troy Duncan, April 12th at 9 on Channel 8.
Had fun.
Me too. I hope Dad doesn't ruin it.
I think your dad forgot.
No, he's probably just running late. I hope he hasn't started drinking again.
We could call him.
No. Let's just give him a few more minutes. He promised he'd be different when he got back.
Is that him?
Please be him. Yeah, that's him.
If you have a drug or alcohol problem, don't let it hurt the ones you love most. Call 1-800-CHARTER.
Well, I hope you won't worry. No, I need to be here.
It's for the Pro-Am Challenge Championship Horse Show at Will Rogers Coliseum, April 5th through the 10th. The prestigious Arabian Horse Show benefits eQuest in the spirit of Texas. Working in the spirit of Texas. From WFAA TV, this is News 8 at 5.
They just found that 2 employees had been shot. I can't give any more information than that right now.
Dallas police used security camera video in the search for whoever murdered 2 young men at an East Dallas video store.
And that story tops News 8 at 5. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us. A brand new Blockbuster video store was the scene of a late Easter Sunday double murder. It happened at the Casa Linda Shopping Center at Buckner and Garland Road. Channel 8's Alan Berg joins us now live from Dallas Police Headquarters in downtown Dallas with an update on the suspects. And this sounds like pretty good information, Alan.
Chip, yes, police now confirm that they captured the suspect in the shooting on videotape. Initially, they asked reporters not to mention the fact that they had an in-store recording of the incident. They hoped that they would be able to track down the suspect quickly without him knowing that they had his image on tape. However, just after 4 this afternoon, they amended that strategy and decided to release the videotape in hopes that somebody would recognize the gunman. Police describe the suspect as an African-American male in his late teens or early 20s, 5'4" to 5'6". They say he weighs between 140 and 160 pounds. He has some facial hair. Police say he was wearing a 2-tone coat, light on the top, as well as at the end of the sleeves. Meanwhile, in the East Dallas area where the murders occurred, police are still trying to develop new leads.
The Casa Linda Shopping Center Blockbuster just opened last week. Police believe new employees James Armstrong and Brad Lindsay were closing the store when they were confronted by a robber already inside.
Now, it appears that they were shot by someone who was in the store right at the closing. When one of the employees didn't come home, his mother went to the store, found it locked, summoned the police, who, after a couple hours, managed to contact someone on the Blockbuster to get in.
Police believe both were shot once with a handgun. Investigators are withholding details until they can further narrow their search for a suspect. At the shopping center, a sign announced the store would open late due to reasons beyond our control. A friend of Lindsay's learned of the news when she drove up.
He was working for his, I guess it was GED, and he was taking on a full-time job here, helping his mom.
Other business owners in the area wonder why the shopping center owners don't provide more security.
Being in the, bakery and catering business, we come in at, all hours of the day and night, and I'm concerned for myself and, of course, our employees also.
Beginning with the earliest news today, and we've had a number of calls, received a lot of small pieces of information that we're confident that, in addition to our physical evidence, will lead to a successful conclusion in this case.
Police say there have been other video store robberies in the area. They don't know if they're connected. As investigators search for answers, workers at the store repaired the locks above the bouquet of flowers, which underscored the sense of loss.
James Armstrong was 26-year-old. Brad Lindsay was 20 years old. Blockbuster Video is offering a $50,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and the conviction of the suspect. Casa Linda Shopping Center says it does indeed plan to beef up security at the shopping center. They told Channel 8 that was in the works prior to this murder, double murder yesterday. Reporting live, Alan Berg, Channel 8 News.
Okay. Thank you, Alan.
Well, there may be fewer guns on Dallas and Fort Worth streets tonight. That's due in part to the Southern Christian Leadership Conference's gun buyback program that started today. The event coincides with the 26th anniversary of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Under the shadow of the King statue in South Dallas, several people traded in their revolvers, semi-automatics, and shotguns for anywhere from $25 to $60 apiece. One of them was Julia Cooper. Her son Sean was shot to death 2 years ago.
I just went to a pawn shop, spent $50 on this thing that I'm holding, that I think is quite disgusting, but I'm going to get rid of it.
SCLC officials say guns collected today will be melted down and made into peace symbols. 9 other cities are also participating in the event.
The Attorney General of Mexico says the assassination of the ruling party's presidential candidate, Luis Donaldo Colosio, appears to have been the result of a conspiracy. Colosio was gunned down while campaigning in Tijuana last month. Today, the special prosecutor heading the investigation said at least 7 people were involved in the assassination. The gunman, Mario Alberto Martinez, was arrested at the scene of the shooting. 4 others, including an organizer of Colosio's local security detail, have also been charged in connection with the killing. The special prosecutor says one of the suspects threw himself on the floor in front of Colosio so the gunman could get a closer shot. The motive for the assassination remains unknown.
In Texas politics, voters have a choice between Slick Richard and Dinosaur Jim. Those are just 2 of the names swapped today by the candidates in the Democratic runoff for U.S. Senate. Channel 8's Doug Fox reports.
It was a joking tug-of-war handshake before the debate, but their pre-show combativeness in the Senate race quickly spilled over on the air. Jim Maddox and Richard Fisher have verbally jabbed and stabbed each other for weeks now, and their runoff election is only 8 days away. In taping an appearance on Primetime Texas, it appeared as if they might set the personal attacks aside and talk substance.
You know, when you sling mud, there's an old farmer saying that you're throwing away good soil. And I expect the next week we're going to focus on the issues. I pray and hope we will.
Right now, Richard, I would tell you, what we all do is pull down your negative commercials, and I'll pull down mine. Let's go on about our way and talk about issues.
But the civility didn't last long. They still traded verbal punches even when discussing legislation that's already passed, such as the North American Free Trade Agreement.
There is a clear difference between us on that. Jim was against it, I was for it. This is the greatest economic development tool imaginable for Texas, for South Texas, and also potentially for Mexico. And Jim, you were dead set against NAFTA.
Mr. Manning. Richard, you're slick. And I'm going to tell you something. You can identify problems real good. You don't offer any solutions, but you identify the problems.
You vote for NAFTA or against it?
Richard, let me tell you something. Back at the time when you were trying to get the support of the United We Stand people, at that time, the Ross Perot group, you were against NAFTA. Then as you got started on in the campaign, then you decided you'd be for NAFTA. You've always said, as I've said, that we're for free trade.
And after the debate, the name-calling didn't stop.
Richard's a Republican, and he's come into the Democratic primary and tried to say the Democratic Party ought to be more like the Republican Party.
I'm standing next to a dinosaur. This is a politics of being outdated. And he'll whip his tail around every now and then and knock me over, but the voters will decide.
In fact, early voting already is underway, but only 5 to 6% of the state's 9 million registered voters are expected to show up. Doug Fox, Channel 8 News.
And you can see the debate tomorrow night. It airs in its entirety in a special edition of Primetime Texas tomorrow night at 9, right here on Channel 8.
Meanwhile, the first African-American to hold the post of Texas Secretary of State today took office. Governor Ann Richards gave the oath of office to 39-year-old Ron Kirk of Dallas. Kirk is a lawyer, lobbyist, and Democratic Party activist, widely praised for his energy and his honesty. He became the 98th Texas Secretary of State and is the Chief Elections Administrator. Kirk's selection by Governor Richards continues an unprecedented record of minority appointments under her New Texas policy.
It is humbling for me to stand before you as the state's Chief Election Officer, considering the price that Dr. King and others were willing to pay in order for me to have the privilege of standing before you today.
Kirk says his top goal is to improve voter turnout, which has dramatically declined in recent elections.
It was another dismal day on Wall Street. At the sound of today's closing bell, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was down more than 42 points in heavy trading. Fears of higher interest rates sent stocks plunging 60 points in just the first 15 minutes of trading this morning. The market closed at 3593.35, its lowest level this year.
And today's market plunge followed a full week of heavy selling.
Business analyst David Johnson joins us live from his Dallas office to help us understand what's happening on Wall Street. David, we keep on hearing that inflation and interest rates are fueling the fears at Wall Street. How realistic, though, is that, considering there are no real signs of inflation?
Well, I don't think you're very realistic at all. I mean, there really aren't any signs of inflation. Actually, Greenspan said that back in February. I mean, this is supposed to be a preemptive move that maybe oil would go up or maybe food prices. But, gee, there's a thing called the Commodity Research Bureau Index. It's an inflation index, and it was down sharply today. Of course, most everything was down sharply. So I don't think it's very well founded. It may well be that the Fed really was trying to get some of the speculative fever out of the stock market. You remember it had a pretty good year last year, and in January it was up 225 points in 30 days. And so they may well have been trying to cool that down. The interest rate fears are very well founded, and we're seeing them, and they are fact. The Fed may not have raised interest rates since March 22nd, but by golly, they were up today. 30-year bonds hit the highest level since January of 1993, 7.42%. Before you sit there and say, well, I don't care about that, consider that that's one of the formulas they use for setting home mortgage rates and a lot of other long-term interest rates. So those fears are there, and it may well slow down this economy. The question is, will it slow it down so much that it doesn't grow at all? That's the question we have yet to answer.
Yeah, David, let me ask you this. If you've got a crystal ball there in the lower right-hand drawer of your desk, what's going to happen tomorrow?
I think, you know, based on what we saw here at the end, Chip, the sellers were still around. I mean, the bears were still in command. The bond market was selling off toward the close. Sure, the industrials average was only down 40-something at the close, but and it was down 80 at one point early this morning. But best guess is the sellers are still around. There's still a lot of big investors that have lost a lot of money, and they have to sell. They're leveraged. They've taken $1 and then borrowed $2 or $3 and really gone heavily into the stock and bond markets, and now the creditors are making them sell and liquidate, and they don't care about fundamentals. They're just going to sell. So it looks a little higher in the morning. Maybe tomorrow will be our capitulation day. We'll get it all over with. We'll knock on something wood.
Okay.
Probably veneer, but it'll work.
All right,
we'll
thank
stay
you.
tuned. Thank you, David.
Thanks, David.
Well, in business news, a new nonstop air route offers North Texans a direct link to downtown Chicago now without going through O'Hare Airport. Midway Airlines today launched its new nonstop service from Dallas-Fort Worth to Midway Airport near downtown Chicago. 3 nonstop flights will be offered daily in each direction. Dallas Mayor Steve Bartlett was on hand for the inauguration. He says the service will help business travelers. Midway officials served up Chicago-style deep dish pizza to mark the occasion.
Airline frequent flyers upset with new restrictions may be able to seek recourse today. The Supreme Court agreed to take up the case. At issue is an Illinois lawsuit filed against American Airlines on behalf of its frequent flyers. American retroactively modified its frequent flyer program in 1988. Frequent flyers want the right to sue in state courts for monetary damages. Lawyers for American contend that federal law bars such state court lawsuits.
And coming up next on News 8 at 5, a Michigan woman helps turn attention to arthritis patients who need relief from unrelenting pain.
And more trouble for an environmental project in the Arizona desert. 2 former crew members are accused of sabotage.
All right, right now, let's get a check on afternoon traffic with Metro Traffic's Gail Lightfoot. Gail?
Well, Chip, this afternoon just now reported in Carrollton 2 accidents in close proximity. Northbound I-35 Stemmons, one at Whitlock and the other at Trinity Mills. Now in Tarrant County, wrecks with arrows. The eastbound I-30 West Freeway at Cherry Street has just cleared. Also, eastbound Northeast Loop A20 at Highway 26. Construction crews on that left lane causing a backup, and another wreck westbound I-20 just before I-35, the South Freeway. Gail Lightfoot, News 8 Metro Traffic.
Where you get your wish for a fish. Even a king doesn't do it like this. Wendy doesn't have this original crunch. A better dip taste, don't go on a hunch. Go fish.
Your search is over. Long John Silver's is the only place you'll find that one-of-a-kind batter dip taste. And now for a limited time, get our original one-piece fish and fries for just $1.79.
Yeah, for better dip taste, we'll grant your wish. Well, it's Long John Silver's when you want to go fish.
Here's another Coca-Cola Starflex update. Channel 8 in the spirit of Texas welcomes Brooks and Dunn. Saturday, May 7th with special guests Aaron Tippin and Faith Hill. And Sunday, May 8th, the Southern Spirit Tour starring Marshall Tucker Band, 38 Special and more. And May 26th, the Beach Boys. Brooks and Dunn tickets on sale now. Southern Spirit and Beach Boys go on sale Friday, April 8th. Get your tickets at Ticketmaster. The summer stars are coming to the Coca-Cola Starflex. Always cool, always Coca-Cola.
They never thought the dream could come true. They never thought they could afford it.
But on March 15th, Mike Turner and his family moved into their very first home. It was a HUD home. One of hundreds HUD can help you own, for as little as 3% down. Ask a real estate agent about HUD homes, and make your own dream come true.
A Dutch airliner crashed shortly after takeoff today, killing 3 people and injuring 21 others. It happened at Amsterdam's main airport. A KLM flight carrying 24 people was on its way to Wales when it had engine problems and turned back. The twin-engine Saab overshot the runway, crashed into a muddy field, and broke apart. Rescue efforts were hindered by lack of a road close to the crash site, which is surrounded by farms.
In medical news, pain control for cancer patients gained national attention recently when doctors called on their colleagues to prescribe stronger medication to lessen cancer patients' suffering. Well, now the case of a Michigan woman who sought help from the so-called suicide doctor has put the spotlight on arthritis pain control. Channel 8's Dennis Johnson has details for us in today's HealthWise report.
The Michigan patient suffers from painful rheumatoid arthritis. She contacted Dr. Jack Kevorkian, telling him her doctor limited her pain medication.
When she asks for pain relief, they say, no, you could become addicted to something stronger. Well, what's the point?
Well, I'm just going to let you do your thing. Oh, good.
George Kitchell appreciates the struggle of the woman, who now has a morphine patch for her pain. He, too, has severe rheumatoid arthritis.
I can relate to that, but just not the way I would choose to meet the problem.
Physician-assisted death is not the choice of the Arthritis Foundation either. It says assisted suicide is not an appropriate option for people with rheumatoid arthritis or any other form of the disease. Appropriate medication can help control the pain and inflammation the disease causes. Rheumatologist Dr. Stanley Cohen says old beliefs about pain control and red tape complicate these cases.
We also are closely regulated by our state board, who keeps a tally of the amount of narcotic analgesics that we prescribe. Having said all that, I think we're shifting in our philosophy of how we're looking at people with chronic pain.
Not like the Rockettes, you understand?
Yeah, you can't do the high kick.
I don't do the high kick, no.
Humor helps George Kitchell cope with his pain, along with medications, exercise, and tips he's learned from Arthritis Foundation self-help courses.
Sometimes I can do it by imagining my walking down a lonely beach.
George's daughter, who also has rheumatoid arthritis, thinks a lack of understanding about the disease is painful.
Had I not experienced this a little bit myself personally, watching Dad all these years, I would have been one of those people that said, oh, arthritis, pick up with Tylenol and you'll be fine. Unless you've been there or unless you've seen it, watched it day after day, you can't know.
George Kitchell knows he's not about to give up.
You play the hand you got, and that gets us by today, and you just hang on because you hope that someday everything's going to be all right.
Dennis Johnson, Channel 8 News.
And for more information on arthritis pain control, call the Arthritis Foundation. The phone number is 1-800-442-6653.
There are reports of sabotage at the Biosphere 2 environmental project in the Arizona desert. Today, operators of Biosphere accused 2 people who once lived inside the domed environment of damaging the integrity of the project. They say the 2 broke in yesterday and damaged seals that prevent outside air from entering. Only 2 days earlier, Texas billionaire Ed Bass, the project's chief backer, got a court order to oust the facility's top managers. Bass accused them of financial and scientific mismanagement.
It's been rough sailing for that project ever since it got started. Well, your forecast was right on the mark over the weekend.
I tell you what, this time of year the weather changes so often. It's doing it again. A beautiful Sunday. The clouds increasing today. More storms tonight. Then it's going to get cold again. Hopefully we escape that freeze, but lots of stuff going on. I'll be back to tell you about it.
Captioning of News 8 is funded in part by Deloitte & Touche, providing auditing, tax, business, and management consulting services to North Texas for more than 70 years.
Very large cone-shaped tornado on the ground.
It's one of the most deadly forces of nature.
They're still hanging on to their lives.
Strike
striking anywhere, anytime, with little warning.
This is awful.
Tornado alert.
Wow, what a storm.
Witness firsthand the devastation and destruction they leave behind. Plus, step inside the leading edge of technology and learn how to keep your family safe. Tornado alert. What you need to know.
Join News 8's Troy Duncan, April 12th at 9 on Channel 8.
When you need an auto part, you don't need to search high and low.
I didn't want to mess up.
He wasn't real comfortable.
Had to pick up a master cylinder. My dad called in.
I had it already. Some brake fluid, too.
My little guy was cool.
Wanted to make sure he wouldn't have to come back.
Dad thought the brake fluid was my idea.
He could get a master cylinder anywhere. What he needed was high-low.
This Saturday, all Levitt showrooms will celebrate the grand opening of their North Richland Hills showroom at 5196 Root Snow Drive, just off Highway 820. Register to win a $5,000 shopping spree at any Metroplex showroom. No purchase necessary. See Levitt's for details.
You never knew what's on you.
Be careful if you come into Best Buy this week. You might go a little overboard because you can make no payments and pay no interest for 6 months on everything at Best Buy. Every product on every shelf, in every aisle. And though you may go a little overboard, you won't go over budget. Because you can get no payments and no interest for 6 months on everything. This week at Best Buy, where it's easy to get carried away.
Weather is sponsored by Best Buy.
Looks like another round of thunderstorms shaping up for us overnight tonight, but later than the ones we had Saturday night. This time it'll be after midnight, I think. In the early morning hours, we could have some pretty big boomers. Here's the way things are shaping up. As we look at this morning's satellite photograph, the remnants of the last front now trying to move back as a warm front. A trough of low pressure just trying to organize in West Texas. And here's how the clouds have looked today. Well, note that part of the upper airflow is southwest and northeast. There's a strong low-pressure impulse just crossing Baja California, the Mexican part of California this afternoon. The timing on that is what's critical. It looks like that will be here very late tonight, early tomorrow, and that will add enough instability to the mix to give us some storminess. Now, right now, we would have radar reports on there, but there are none. There is no precipitation noted in our part of the country. We do have this trough of low pressure, instability in a dry line, dry air west of it, moisture to the east. Low pressure sinking down along an Arctic front, which will be here tomorrow evening. So everything is coming toward us, but it's that instability impulse from the southwest that's important, and that looks like the thunderstorm producer late night, early tomorrow. Temperatures now, 75 for us, 88 at Midland, Odessa, 69 at Albuquerque, 72 in New Orleans. Southerly winds over us today have been fairly strong because of that low pressure trough, and the southerly winds will continue strong overnight tonight. Then they come westerly tomorrow afternoon and northerly tomorrow night. Then we get cooler than you might want this time of year. 78 has been our high today after a morning low of 48 at 75 now. The humidity today is 48% at 5 o'clock. The barometer is falling. Wind is south at 16, still gusting at 26, and no rain today. Now, the air quality today, moderate in Dallas, a bit of ozone in the air, good in Fort Worth. The winds picked up after that, and that should not be a problem for the next couple of days. Pollen is 469 grains per cubic meter of air. Fungus 197, oak 170, mulberry 45, cottonwood 26, then hackberry 13, ash 8, grass 8, and mountain cedar 2. Thanks to Dr. Jeff Edelglass for those figures. 10 o'clock tonight. Well, things start to come together. We may begin to see some thunderstorm activity forming in the western part of our area. Southerly winds 15 to 25. By western part of our area, I mean maybe around Abilene, Wichita Falls, 70 for us. And then by tomorrow morning, that upper low pressure wave arrives. 65 for an overnight low. The thunderstorms, if they're going to be severe, will probably be in that early morning hours type area. And then the colder air starts to arrive by the middle of the day. Drier air has replaced the thunderstorm air, so the storms move off to East Texas and western Louisiana. 68 by noon. Tomorrow afternoon's high temperature around 70, but by that time the winds will work around it northerly, and then tomorrow night it gets a little bit chilly, about 40, and a high of only 55, even with some sunshine on Wednesday afternoon. If there's a problem here, it's going to be Wednesday night, when I think it'll be in the middle 30s with maybe some frost. So more about that as the week goes on. But
some frost.
Could possibly be Wednesday night.
Okay. Thanks, Troy.
Coming up, now that things have settled down a bit at Valley Ranch, Coach Barry Switzer is getting acquainted with the players. Next in sports, we'll get the latest inside report on the Dallas Cowboys.
And then a bit later, we'll see how Martin Luther King Jr. was remembered today.
I come home from work, the phone's ringing, it's them. You know, those people who call you up saying switch from AT&T?
We got low prices and service you can't believe, yada, yada, yada.
They big, and they go on and on and on.
If someone calls offering you big savings over AT&T, don't take their word for it. Ask them to...
Put it in writing. Put it in writing.
I asked them to put it in writing.
Put it in writing.
Your true
Where in the world would you go if there were no Las Vegas? What other place will you ever find where you can spend the entire day teeing off, stepping out, or just winding down? And all night really living it up? Only in Las Vegas.
He's called the biggest mass murderer in U.S. history, and you've probably never heard of him.
I call him a death merchant. I mean, he really deals in death, and that's what he's all about. There's a real cloud of death that hangs over this individual.
His weapon, a home chemistry lab.
He's as much a murderer as people who pull out a gun and shoot another person.
Crime Crisis, Forrest Sawyer, Day 1.
That's tonight, here on Channel 8, followed by the News 8 update.
It is one of those spring fever type days that you just want to be outside.
Yeah, and the charity golf tournaments have started. So 3 guesses where Dale Hansen is today. Well, he's live at the Hyatt Bear Creek Golf Course.
It's Bobby Bragan's Youth Foundation being played here at Bear Creek, and we made it through anyway. We played all 18 holes. I could have been watching the Rangers lose. I didn't want to do that. They did to the Yankees 5-3. And Cowboys coach Barry Switzer met the players. So let's talk about that. And here's Susie Woodham.
I had the gentleman come in my office a while ago. I wasn't even aware it was on the squad because he wasn't in the program because he's traded for in the middle of the year. You understand? I didn't even know he was here, but he was in the Big 8 conference. I coached
The getting to know you period has officially started for Cowboys coach Barry Switzer, as about 30 players wandered in and out of Valley Ranch on the day of their first team meeting in the Switzer era.
Been looking forward to meeting him anyway, and you know, you hear so much. I didn't meet Jimmy till I got drafted, so you know, I'm looking forward to it, and just you know, just want to take it one day at a time and play it by ear.
He had a great analogy. He said that it's like one bus driver getting off, another one getting on, taking down the same road. I got the impression that you know, he's an upbeat kind of guy, and you know, he's a great motivator, and you know, that's the impression that I got in the meeting.
Most of the players who attended have been in Dallas throughout the offseason. And almost predictably, Michael Irvin was the only one who left early and visibly agitated, this time with no comment.
I said that Michael, Emmett, and all those guys that play for Jimmy Johnson and have a fierce loyalty for him and support him, that's an admirable quality. I really would feel badly about it if I was the coach here and my players didn't support me. Damn right I'd be upset about it. So that didn't upset me and doesn't bother me.
But while Switzer reassured the back-to-back Super Bowl champions that not much should change during his tenure, the meeting wasn't without a few surprises.
But he coached Jimmy and Jerry. I wanted to ask him how they were as players, but didn't get to that part. But that kind of surprised me because he doesn't look as old as they do. Well, he'll age quickly now, though.
Meanwhile, what's getting old for some players is the constant scrutiny.
You got the Rangers starting their season. You got the Stars in town for the first time in 2 weeks, playing 4 of the last 5 games against division opponents. There's got to be something else out there better than this story right now.
Are you signed yet?
No, I'm not. Hopefully by the end of this week.
Could be the first coup of the Switzer era. Susie Woodhams, Channel 8 Sports.
Well, you hope Daryl Johnson signed by the end of the week. You certainly hope it's with the Dallas Cowboys. The Rangers did lose their opener in New York. Kevin Brown, 5 innings, gave up 10 hits, 5 runs, and the Yankees beat the Rangers 5-3. We'll have those highlights at 6. And a very quick basketball note, Duke and Arkansas tonight, and Cherokee Parks, who's got a torn ligament, will play tonight for Duke. Should be a good basketball game. We'll talk to you more at 6.
Okay. We'll see you then. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
The dreamer is gone, but his dreams linger on. The nation marked the 26th anniversary of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. today amidst renewed calls for social change and less crime.
In Atlanta, King's widow, Coretta Scott King, laid a wreath at King's tomb. She said the nation has come a long way, but not far enough, because drugs, gangs, and guns still infest the streets.
King's sister said the legacy of the slain civil rights leader will be carried on by a new generation of leaders.
And now, very quickly, a correction to a story we told you about earlier. Dallas Attorney Ron Kirk was sworn in today as the state's new Secretary of State. We called Kirk the first African-American to hold that job. He is not. He is, however, the first African-American male to serve in that position. Myra McDaniel, a woman, was the state's first African-American Secretary of State, and she served from 1984 to 1987.
Regardless, congratulations to Ron Kirk, who is from Dallas.
And he takes enthusiasm to the job and hopes to increase voter turnout, which we have seen kind of dwindling in recent elections.
We definitely need improvement in that category. I want to thank you for joining us, and a special thank you to the kids at Arcadia Park Elementary School tonight.
You must have had lunch there today.
That's right, I've been there. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Good night.
Wall Street goes its own way again. And what does a down market mean? In Texas, $1 billion of your tax money to close down a project that was too expensive in the first place. And the San Francisco Giants. Will technology really make them hit better?
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. We're going to begin on Wall Street this Monday. It's been another of those days which only the makers of antacid tablets really love. Despite vigorous cheerleading by members of the Clinton administration, Mr. Clinton himself said today the economy is sound, interest rates will come down, the stock market took another dive. The Dow Jones Industrial Average of 30 industrial stocks lost 42 points in very heavy trading. We have two reports, and we begin with ABC's Bob Jamieson.
The stock market opened to a wave of selling, driven by rising interest rates. In the first 15 minutes of trading, the Dow Jones Industrial Average plunged more than 63 points. Within an hour, blue chips had fallen 83 points before a fitful comeback that saw the market close down almost 43 points at 35.93. And volume, an extremely heavy 342 million shares, underscored the market's turmoil. As bad as it was, many analysts had predicted there would be a deeper drop after the long holiday weekend. And there were no signs of panic among individual investors as the market's decline entered its second week.
Well, right now I'm just holding on for things and see how things go. It's very difficult now to make some decisions.
Savings didn't pay very much the past few years, so pretty much put everything into stocks.
And there was no sign that such investors were selling their shares in mutual funds that pumped billions of dollars into the stock market in the last several years. That helped drive the bull market, which began in October of 1990 when the Dow was at 2365. 3 years later, it was at 3630, and by the end of January, it stood at 3978. But the recent sell-off to 3593 today has seen the market lose about 9% of its value. Wall Street traders say stocks had become overvalued and the market was ripe for at least a 10% decline. But they worry now that this is no correction, but the beginning of a long decline with interest rates at a 14-month high and rising.
What's happened is stocks went up because rates went down. Now the rates are going up, stocks are going down. They have to adjust to an equilibrium.
Some Wall Street analysts predict the market could fall another 200 points or more, but not all at once. Investors, they believe, may see a series of sell-offs like today's over the next several months. Bob Jamieson, ABC News, New York.
Well, how many times in the past have we said not everyone understands this stuff? President Clinton said again today that with the number of new jobs that are being created, and even if interest rates sneak up a little, the national economy is in pretty good shape, and most economists agree. But the stock market has gone down 300 points in the last couple of weeks, so what's going on here? We are joined this evening by ABC's Robert Krulwich, a new correspondent in our midst, but who's been covering money matters for a long time. Robert, welcome to ABC. Nice to have your expertise. Explain this to us. When there's so much good economic news around at the national level, why does the market react negatively?
Well, you know, to make these things, to make it simple, it's really the bond market that's the core of the problem. The bond market has a peculiar
sort of reverse psychology here. If you were to open up a newspaper and see that hundreds of thousands of people had just gotten work, any normal person would be thrilled. In the bond market, they look at the exact same news and they think, uh-oh. What they worry about is they are a market driven by large institutions with tremendous amounts of money who invest for long periods of time. When they see that headline, they think, uh-oh, very soon more people are going to ask for raises. Very soon businessmen are going to charge more for their products. They are predicting a new round of inflation very shortly, and they are worried.
And does this mean they have a lot of power? The Clinton administration appears to pay a lot of attention to the bond market.
They have quite a bit of power, and the main power they have is they can put pressure on the federal government to raise interest rates. If enough people leave the bond market, pressure is on the government to raise rates. When rates go up, it has a profound effect on all of us.
Now, this is a hypothetical question, but if a lot of people decided to take their money out of the bond market and put it back in banks, presumably for a higher interest rate, what would this mean to the national economy?
If it happens very quickly,